everybody, and welcome back to the Corner of Gray Street podcast. I'm Nolan, that's Bruce, and we have a special guest with us tonight. He is a legend in the D&B community, D&B's recording technician, guitar god, Joe Lawlor, who we have seen personally live several times. Some awesome guest spots with the band. Joe, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, I'm super glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. Bruce, man, why don't you get things started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joe, obviously, thanks for joining and everything. And before we get too much into Joe Lawlor, the man, and what made him into what he is today and all of that, really, I mean, just kind of catch us up to speed where you're at right now. I mean, you gave us a little bit before we hopped on here. You know, this is kind of your own little studio there, but what's been going on in your world just most recently, as you kind of gear up for another busy year?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you said, I'm here in Charlottesville in my little home studio. And I'm glad to be here. We just got back from Mexico, the Dave and Tim shows, where luckily my partner, my love, Kristen, Ray Bowden, and myself get to play a little pool set, which affords us to both be there. Well, I have to be there for work, but it gets her there, and we get to play some music, and it's a really good time. And then sort of fourth annual, it's always my birthday right after that, February 24th. So we cruise down, Kristen and I, to Tulum, and we have a little favorite place we hang out and rent a little cabana there and hang out for a week for my birthday. So we just got home, six days ago or something from that, and missing the sunshine and then the white sandy beaches, and we all love tacos. love Mexican food. But yeah, right now we're home in Charlottesville. I've got a little time off. I guess the next D&B thing is the Innings Festival down there in Tampa coming up mid-March. But that's just sort of a one-off, like fly in the day before, work really hard the day of, and fly home the next day. And then off to Mexico beginning of March for that cool little run there. And then on to summer tour. I guess I'm starting like my 21st year working for D&B.
Wow.
My 21st summer tour, so to speak, and which is an interesting thought, like one part of it's like, yeah, 20 years, and the other part is like, whoa, 20 years. So but as far as jobs go, I feel lucky. I work for some special people, starting at the top and rolling right on down the chain there. I wouldn't be there for 20 years if it wasn't that way, and it's no compromise for me to be there. It's really good people. So yeah, that's where we're at. Chris and I are gearing up. We're opening up for the Bodines here in Charlotte.
Cool.
Chris and I have this duo that we don't know what to call. We want to call it like the naked duo because we feel really naked without a drummer and a bass player or something. But so far it's Joe and Kristen. But you know what we've been finding is we've been getting a lot of gigs opening. We did a week opening for Tim Reynolds and TR3. We did some nice shows with New Potato Caboose, some old friends of mine in a kind of Grateful Dead-ish band. But we've been getting in some good venues, city wineries in Philly and the Hamilton in DC, because a duo is actually a great opening act. Like, it's only two people. It's only a little bit of gear. It's easy to deal with, and our names provide a little draw. We add a little bit to ticket sales, and so we're actually finding our way into a pretty neat gig. That I wasn't quite expecting people to be receptive. I wasn't expecting the venues and the other bands to be as receptive. It's like, but some bands don't want the opening band to blow them off the stage, and we're a duo, so we're always different. For whoever we open for, we're different than they are. So it's been fun, and we're pursuing that more and more. Obviously,
You don't have to come up with a cool name. I mean, you've got Dave and Tim, like Joe and Kristen.
Yeah, I know.
just lines up. Like,
Yeah,
there
but
you
I've
go.
heard Dave's advice: don't ever call the band after yourself. You know? He didn't mean to do that; it just kind of happened.
It worked though.
But then it's, Dave Matthews did such and such in the press, and Dave Matthews
Sure.
did, instead of the Toxic Twins or something.
Yeah.
It gets really personal really quick. But anyway, but you're
That's
right.
a good point.
Yeah. There you go. So
Sweet.
anyway,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. No, we'll dive into that. I want to talk more about Mexico and
Sure.
how that went and how jealous we are of everyone that was down there.
Okay, seriously, can I speak about Mexico since you brought it up again?
Of
Like,
course.
Yeah.
honestly, in 20 years in recording, the second night I was sitting there recording, and like the hair stood up on the back of my neck, and Kristen happened to be on stage left listening in headphones with me, and she kind of looked up at me, unusually so, and like something special was happening right now. And I honestly think that second night was like one of the most perfect Dave and Tim shows I've ever heard. I mean, I always like doing the Dave and Tim thing because you get a little more of the heart of the matter, and you also get some Dave stories for longer than you would with the full band shows, which to me are really interesting. And also, like, Tim is my Jedi master, and to watch him in that situation is always amazing for me personally. But I honestly think that second night, and the third night was really good too. And I'm not saying the first night was terrible or anything. The first night was fine, but the second, especially the second night, was something special, man. Like, Dave had this new, like, way he was holding the guitar was kind of up, and his shoulder was out, and he was playing so tight, like rhythmically on, like, but also articulate. All the little parts were in there too. It wasn't like just playing through stuff. Like, everything was really there, which gave Tim this basis to really play to, with this tight rhythm going on. And Tim was in his Martian self and just playing amazing accompaniment to what Dave was doing. But also Dave was like making these choices, like when a note was maybe going to be too high for where his voice was, he was choosing like a really cool bluesy alternative, like not anticipating it, like, oh shit, am I going to be able to hit this note? Oh shit, or something like that. He was like pegging interesting alternative shit. And then his storytelling, like, he was telling stories that were actually laying down like heavy messages by way of like humor and things like that, like not offending anybody, but saying some really serious stuff. And I just thought, like, I've worked at a lot of Dave and Tim shows, and they're like I said, I think they're always really usually pretty special. But like, if you were to judge this show on a bunch of points, like Dave's guitar playing, awesome, check. The rhythm between Dave and Tim, awesome, check. Dave singing, awesome, check. Dave's storytelling, awesome, check. It just like hit all the bases like at a really high level. And like, I record everything. Then when Dave opens his mouth, I push record for the past 20 years. So there's something to it when the hair stick up on the back of my neck, like that something's happening. Maybe it's personal, but I think it's like all over. And I just really wanted to say that those were some pretty special shows.
Dude, that's what we want to hear. We always are wondering, like, what do people that are in it every single day, what makes them tick, what makes them get excited, like you said. And so that's really, really cool, because you guys see every single thing here, every single note over, and night after night after night, and year after year. So for something like that, that's really, really cool. And I like that you talked about the way he was holding his guitar, because I noticed that in some of the pictures and videos. So maybe that was something like a control thing that Dave did. He wanted a little bit more. So that's good. That's good insight. That's insider information.
It really was. I mean, it was right there to be seen by everybody, but I just noticed it, like what's going on here? He's playing like deadly on rhythmically and very articulate. So, you know, those are somewhat different things, you know, like play everything rhythmically on and get all the little intricacies in at the same time. It's like those are two different things in a way, and he was pulling both of that off. And I noticed like he's really kind of holding things. He's sitting differently. He's holding this thing differently. Like there's a lot of differences. I just really feel like maybe, you know, this far into his career, he's really like finding it, like finding the spot, you know. Maybe I'm gushing too much. And let me preface this too, is like I was not only was I not a Dave Matthews Band fan, but like I didn't really like Dave Matthews. Like I was in a band called Egypt touring, selling out the Bayou, the same clubs they were playing when they first started, and we were like, who are these pussies? You know, like you know, like with acoustic guitars. We were playing like Fishbone and Chili Peppers and like you know, and never wore shirts and you know. So to be honest, I'm not coming from like some place where like I got my dream job working with my dream artist, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't a fan of it. And I am now 20 years later, which sounds like counterproductive because now I have to listen to it all the time and I'm over and you know, inundated. I don't know the right word, you know, so I've got a lot of it. But honestly, like the things I've already said, but the band as a whole, I mean, obviously there's a musicianship of Carter and you know, the addition of Buddy recently and you know, Stefan just is actually understated, but super tight, like plays right on the money every night, you know. But these guys take chances in front of 25,000 people. You know, I know there's a lot of like controversy about set lists and shit, but that's BS to me, man. They play like I keep the records and the notes of all the stuff, man. They play like 125, 140 songs a summer. I don't know about you, but I can't remember 145 songs. I can remember 20 songs. I play them, and then one's got to go for me to take another one in. So, I mean, these guys are pretty special. And you know what? Like the endings and the jams are different every night, and sometimes there might be a train wreck, but 9 times out of 10, it's something cool. You know,
Love those.
I really respect them, and you know, I think I my appreciation of the Dave Matthews Band has actually only grown in this 20 years that I've been working for him, you know.
Nolan, Joe knows how to work a crowd. He knows
know.
what podcast he's on right now. He's speaking to the DMB people, and we're about to make them gush over him, not just the band, because we want to know about him. But this is such good stuff, and yeah, you're a showman, and you know exactly what you're doing, and I love it.
I mean, I love to rock, man, and you know, like I live for it. Like I've been playing guitar professionally since I was 17. I was in a top 40 band out of Wilmington, North Carolina, doing R&B chart hits. I did dance steps and wore paisley suits and had a blonde pompadour when I was 17, playing 45-minute sets a night in Holiday Inns, not the good ones either, like the ones on the no-name exits, not Richmond and DC, but like Paducah and like Lexington, and you know. I paid my dues in some ways, but I like to play, man. I mean, I went to Berklee College of Music for a semester, and I don't want to learn like that. I know a little bit of theory, and I know a little bit how to play the guitar, but honestly, I just listen and use my ear, and I just keep practicing. But I really like to rock, and I really work off of energy, as you can tell. Like when I come out on stage with DMB, it's like seriously, no one gets this opportunity. Like here's Dave saying, "Hey Joe, why don't you come out?" And first of all, that starts with like a text at dinner. Like this is not a big conversation between Dave and I. Like, you know, maybe we should jam. I get a text at like 7 on the nights I play, and he's like, "Hey man, I want you to play this," and I'm like, "Okay." And I run to the back of the tour bus and sit in the back of the audio bus and go online and find some tabs and go, okay. I know the arrangements, right? I know the arrangements very well. I know when it stops and starts and when the verses and chorus and when to solo. But I honestly don't sit around like trying to play Dave Matthews songs. I don't know how to play them. I know how they go. So I'll run out into the bus literally and use tabs, from probably some of your listeners, who tab out the songs, and go out there. But no one gets that opportunity. Hey, we warmed up to 25,000 people, and Carter's right on time, and just you come out here and jam, and you can take 10 minutes to do whatever you want, Joe. Here you go. Like, no one gets that chance. And part of it's like heavy duty, like a lot of people maybe would get scared or nervous, but for me, that's like, come on, like this is your shot. It always feels like a shot. Like, here's your chance, buddy. Hey, kid, come on. But I'm not a kid either. That's the other thing.
Man, that sounds like just an absolute dream. So you're saying there is no rhyme or reason, see what I did there, to Dave picking a night or a place or a song. We always thought Seaville because you live there, maybe, but there's no other than that. No.
Well, I think Dave sees that like Joe's mom might be in the crowd. He thinks that much about everybody. He's thinking that much about one of the crew dudes. Like, oh, his mom might be here. Let's get up him to jam. I think he thinks that, but it's not spoken about. And the only time there was ever any rhyme or reason to it was when Tim had COVID last year and couldn't play a show. And honestly, that was the only time that I've ever solicited anything with Dave either. For me, it's a rule. I don't ask Dave if I can sit in. I think that would be probably the end of me sitting in if I were to be that bold. You know what I mean? He asked me, and I like it that way, and I think he does too. But I did remind him that day because I knew he was stressing, like, what are we going to do without Tim? I was like, hey, man, I know this song, this song, this song, this song, and I can probably play this song, and this song if you want, And at first he was like, yeah, I don't know. He didn't seem very interested. And then like an hour later, I got a text. Yeah, I want you to play this, 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 and this, But that's the only time that it was even like kind of spoken about, But that was also a different thing too, because then I wasn't a guest. I was the guitar player for that one show. But then strangely, the rest of that week, he texts me every day. Hey, I want you to play again tonight. Like, I'm like, what? That's like my fourth show. Like, what? You know what I mean? And I've also gone years where I haven't sat in it at all. Right? I mean, there's, but then I run the database, and I've sat in like 42 times with the Dave Matthews Band, It's like, it's kind of crazy and weird to me. And I don't know what it is really, but all I know is that I love to play guitar, and I really respect those guys, and I feel like they really like me too. I like Carter's got my back when I go up there and solo, and I'm like on the downstage edge going doodle 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 doodle. Carter's going ticket to go ticket to go ticket. He's got me, man. Like, those guys have my back, and it's a pretty special place. I feel like, and it's not something we talk about or try to do or rehearse. It's just music. So I love it.
Yeah. Can't even imagine. We interviewed Bela Fleck.
Yeah.
Seems like forever ago. Yeah. And he kind of same thing. He, all of a sudden he's like walking out on stage in football stadiums, like, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to be in like the rock band. And I just can't imagine. Yeah, that's so cool.
I can't either. And it also like goes by fast, and I don't even know what happened. All I know is when I'm done with those sit-ins, I'm like drained in this really awesome way. Like, you don't feel very, very often. You know what I'm saying? It feels like a sporting event. Like you just scored a touchdown or something. You know what I mean? Like, you're tired, but you're elated, but you're drained. Like my knees are wobbly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then I run back there and put on my black t-shirt and my black roadie clothes and go right back to work. Like, who did the set list? Like, who's doing the set list? I'm also like the only guy who probably has recorded live records that I played on at the same time. Like, when I run out there and play, I'm just kind of praying that the, Pro Tools rig is still running. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I mean, it's, someone sort of steps in behind me and stuff, but but it's like that, you know what I mean? You know, I don't really know what to say about it because it's really undetermined, not pre-planned. It's improvisation at its best. You know, the whole idea of it.
Well, we love it. Bruce, let's stick on this topic
Yeah.
while we're talking about it. So I've seen you guest with the band 8 times, Bruce 9 times. We were talking about it last night. Like that's an astonishing percentage of the shows that you've
Yeah,
sat in on. I don't know how that's worked out. Seville for a lot of them, but even like
yeah.
this summer we were at Raleigh and you absolutely ripped Rhyme and Reason. You had like a nice solo intro to it. And I
Yeah,
mean, we were going nuts. It was
yeah.
awesome. Like one of my favorite performances of a song. And
Oh
I mean, you
man,
had the crowd going.
cool. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like the crowd's like with me in a way. I felt lucky. Like, wow, these people are lifting me up, you know. Um, and I don't know why Dave picks Rhyme and Reason so often. You know, I have no idea. Other than I guess he remembers that I played on it once because you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, and I've made suggestions over the years, but he's always like, you know, you know.
That's
So
funny.
it's up to him, and I don't know where it comes from, but I mean, you know, he takes that shit seriously, man. He writes those set lists, like he writes those set lists. You know what I mean? Like every day, it's a serious part of like the day, and then running it by Carter and running it by Stefan and the whole thing. It's important to him, and you know, all these decisions are whether people know it or not. Dude is not tossing off these decisions. This all of these decisions are very I'm not going to say calculated. They're just thought of, you know. He doesn't put like reason, like, well, I got to do this to please the radio man or the big record company owner or something. Like he doesn't deal with crap like that. But he is trying to please himself, the fans, the other musicians in the band. He does listen to suggestions and he is flexible with stuff, but it's a lot of work to do that every day besides all the other crap that he does every day, you know. I mean, have you ever seen him in a meet and greet? Like the way Dave like walks up to like the giddy wife with the kind of embarrassed husband and like gives them exactly what they need. Like gives the wife a hug and then shakes the husband's hand. Like it's cool, man. I know you don't feel right. And your wife's going crazy over me right now. It's cool, totally cool. I'm gonna draw her a picture and everything's gonna be cool. And then goes to the next set of people, and then the next set of people, and then the next set of people before he goes on the stage of play, and then goes and does that again at an after party meet and greet thing. You know, it's like he works really hard at this. That dude's a workaholic, man. He works, you know.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, it seems like he's playing even sometimes like a solo gig over here, and then he does another charity show over here, and then him and Tim are doing, and then the band is doing some secret show that was a thing. And a lot of those that we hear about is, and I don't know if you even care to comment on it, but seem to be where they're actually doing it to help make money for road guys and for their families, and to do that extra money where they may not be taking it for themselves. We've kind of heard chatter about that before, and I think that's if it's true or
Or
not,
on
I don't know, but
trees
it's
or for
admirable.
rhinoceroses and trees and Jane
Yeah,
Goodall or whatever, you know. I don't, you know, I don't pretend to know a lot of the business, but I do know that like Dave has found a niche of like, let's just say there's really wealthy people out there that will spend a lot of money to have Dave Matthews come and play at their dinner party. And it seems really strange, but he's like, cool, you buy 3 million trees and I will show up. And and he does it. Those things, you know, I mean, like I said, I don't know about the business and nor can I talk about it if I did,
yeah,
but I think more often than not, it's for a cause or for something good and not cash changing hands. You know what I mean? I think it's more often than not for trees or rhinoceros
yeah.
or you know.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Wow.
that's what we kind of wondered. Just it
yeah,
seems like it's
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, like I can't comment on the business, and I
No,
don't,
for sure.
I don't even want to know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think it's pretty damn good. You
Yeah,
know,
it seems like
I
he does
mean,
a lot of stuff for other people and other things that are just, and that's the cool part of a rock star, right? Like that's
yeah,
cool.
and you know, like that family, like he and the kids and his wife, like you know, I've spent time. They are really nice, laid back people. They don't care about money and fancy ass shit, you know. And they invite people in to hang with them and to enjoy meals with them and enjoy their space and stuff. They're super like just a really good people regardless of rock starness. Like that's a cool family, you know. It is. Yeah. The kids are awesome, you know. And you know, I've been lucky enough to be invited once in a while and stuff that had nothing to do with work, birthday parties for the kids and stuff. And it's like, yeah, we're swimming in the river and we're eating tons of pizza, and then later we're all going to see if we can figure out how to do the worm. You know, it's like it's you know, right? And that's funny. You know, that's what you want to see Dave Matthews doing.
Oh my gosh, that's too
But what I
good.
really mean is they're really good people all the way around, regardless of rock starness. And this rock star word anyway, it's like everybody's a rock star now, you know, like what does it really mean? What's it I'll tell you what it means. Like to me, you know, it means something different, and it's about how you treat people and how you look at the world and you know, not being selfish and you know involving, being inclusive, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've always thought Dave just he stands for the right things, and I don't know, he just seems down to earth, happy
And you
guy,
know,
treats everyone well.
he stands for some things. I mean, some of his fan base, as we know, believes differently than he does. You know, I'm not going to get all political and stuff, but some people, but it seems like they get to the shows and let that go, which is pretty special because man, people are having a hard time doing that. Like hanging out with people who have different opinions than them and having a good time is kind of getting harder and harder in this world, right? You know, because of
Yep.
politics. You know, we don't have to say it. There's so many things out there. So yeah, he somehow straddles that line pretty well too, you know, because I think some people, if he really said directly, this is what I believe, some people would be like, well, I don't agree, you know, but I'm glad that people seem to be able to enjoy the music, um, regardless of their opinions. Hope I
Yeah,
said that.
absolutely.
Did I say that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. No, that was great. Well, Bruce, while we're still kind of going back and forth talking about the you guesting with DMB,
Sure.
Bruce, should we take it back to the first time Joe guested?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We happened to be there.
Oh, that's cool.
Charlottesville '06. And so it's funny now, you were just talking about how the crowd, you know,
Yeah.
kind of lifts you, and you're that guy where if you come on stage, the whole state, you know, the whole arena just goes nuts. That first time, you know, in Charlottesville, I don't know how many people knew you. Like we didn't know who you were. It kind of sounds like you know, Dave, like you know, coming up on stage is Joe Lawlor, and people are probably who is that kind of thing. And then now, you know, the dichotomy is you are the guy. If you come out, people are like, this is going to be good. But
Mm-hmm.
what was it like that first time? You know, what was hey, Joe, like you've been around for a few years. We know you can play guitar. Come up here. This is your hometown. What was that experience like?
It was all that, man. My mom was there. And I got to tell you that my mom, Carolyn Lawlor, took me to guitar lessons, took me to Veneman's Music to buy my first Stratocaster. You know, my mom put effort in, and it was okay to pursue music in my household. So to have my mom there with 14,000 other people and to get up there and rock. My mom always come to my shows, and my bands have played, you know, big club shows and big theater shows in my life. So it wasn't the first time she'd seen me play or anything. She'd seen me. It's hard to get her not to come to a show. You know, she's like 80. I'm like, Mom, you know, it doesn't end till 1 in the morning. Like, you gotta chill, you know. Okay, I'll get you an Uber, you know. But one of my memories was that my mom and my friends were there and shared that with me, and that was intense for me, and the whole thing was super intense. It was I was nervous, and I don't usually get nervous about playing. Like, I'm not saying I don't have, you know, energy, you know, leading up to it. There's like this buildup of energy that you could almost call nervous, but that time I was on the edge and really being, you know, anxious, you know, because there's just so many variables. Like, what's it going to sound like? Is my guitar going to be in tune? Am I going to walk out there and trip over my own shoelace and just fall flat? I'm like, yay, Joe Lawlor, bam! You know, like, am I going to fall off the downstage edge? You know, like, what's
awesome?
Yeah. So it was all those things. I'm not even quite sure how to put it in words, other than like my friends and family were there, and that was really amazing to experience that, because I've been working at music my entire life, like I said, since I was 17, and I've struggled, man. Like, you know, failed record deals. I almost made it with Egypt. You know, we were signed to SBK. You know, Matador Records was looking at Madonna's label. Like, there was big deals on the table. I've been in big recording studios, and all the sad stories about the music. And this is the music industry too, where you used to get big record deals before cell phones and the internet. You made flyers at Kinko's, and you pasted a bump on the wall, and you had the possibility of getting a big, huge record deal, which would, you know, we all know is a big, huge debt. But it felt like when you were young, it was something you go for. It was a totally different industry. You made albums like round black thing, thin black things, you know, and I didn't make it per se, but I almost feel luckier now, like where I am. Like, I have a really good job. Like, a job. Like, most musicians don't have a good job. And it's around music. And I get to play once in a while. Like, I think Dave can sense, oh, Joe needs some music therapy. I think I'll have him on stage tonight, you know, when tours grueling on, and you know what I mean? And it's like, we're getting older now. Like, it used to be really exciting, and tour buses were really awesome, and plane flights to new places were amazing. And I'm not saying they're not anymore, but 20 years of it, man, you know, it's like not quite as exciting. You know, filet mignon every night kind of gets boring and bland, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if all you have is diamonds all the time, like, you kind of long for some silver and turquoise, you know, or something, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel really lucky. That was a really special moment. To circle back, yeah, that was super special in so many different ways. And also, I think those guys enjoyed it, you know, DMB, the members of, you know, which, you know, is always good to, like, you know, feel like your peers respect where you're coming from, you know, like, that's, I guess, part of what we're all looking for, you know, is people that we care about digging what you're doing, you know.
Yeah. No, we had a blast, and I mean, that was such a great introduction to you and your playing. Do you remember the first song you played on?
Is it would I only played it once, If I Had It All, or something? No, I guess I don't.
So Rhyme and Reason the first night, If I Had It All the second night.
Right. I knew Rhyme and Reason, but I couldn't remember if there was two nights. Oh, so I said two nights. So that's even strange. You had me up for two nights. Right. Okay, so that I suggested it, If I Had It All, which I know is really awesome.
Good choice.
Okay.
Yes.
But I felt that outro. I could, like, blues guitar solo out on that if I had it all, you know, I just thought maybe I could do that. And it never happened again. And they don't play the song very often or at all anymore.
Mm-mm.
And it's not necessarily even one of their best songs or anything. I don't know why. I think I told you the reason why I picked it. I thought I could blues out the outro and it would be cool.
We
Well, he sure
definitely
as hell
did.
did, because
Yeah,
people still talk about it may be the best version of all time, and
that's
I would
cool.
never argue with that. So that's
Cool.
awesome. And then
Well,
obviously Rhyme, like that became
yeah,
now it's a legendary song for you. Yeah, I
yeah,
can
Mhm.
see why Dave chooses it every single time, because he knows like he's
yeah,
gonna lock in and he makes it his own. Talking about you,
yeah.
obviously, and yeah, Nolan and I were just like, oh my god, like if they would just do If I Had It All with Joe again. And then we saw you, I think the next year, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Nolan,
Yep.
in '07? You
Oh
played
seven in Charlotte.
on Stand Up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, stand
Yeah.
up, red. Dum dum.
Super random and just boom.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an yeah. That's just Dave. Like, hey, I want you to play on stand up. I'm like, that's. I remember running to the back of the tour bus. I'm like, what's the look? And digga 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 dum dum
Yeah.
digga 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 digga. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got this, no problem. But
I think we
yeah,
were like most blown away maybe by that one. We were like,
yeah,
Yeah.
oh my
yeah.
gosh, what you did on stand up was like, oh, it
And
was rocking.
well, thank you, man. Yeah, I don't, like I said, it's a 15 minutes in the tour bus, learn the basic lick, and then go out there and kind of see what happens. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I got a
That's
lot.
not really a fan favorite like standard song.
No,
And that one's like again the
yeah,
best version of all time. It is released, I
Oh
think, a
yeah.
warehouse disc or something, Nolan.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right, so
or
there's a song that I played on and recorded at the same time. Like, how many people are credited with recording the album
Exactly.
and playing on it? I'm like, yeah, maybe that's one thing I'm, that tip my hat to.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Um, that's funny. Yeah, you guys bring that up. Yeah, it was really cool. I can tell you some other things about it. Like at first I didn't, there's respect levels. There's unwritten rules when you sit in with a band. And they ask you to sit in. And these aren't written and no one, you don't follow them to the T, but it's like, don't go farther downstage than the lead singer, you know? Like, if you're really a hired gun, like if you're replacing the guy in Motley Crue and you're the new hired gun guitar player, you need to follow these rules or you're going to get fired, right? You can't you don't want to upstage anybody. You don't want to outshine anybody. You want to be a gracious guest. You want to not overplay, but not underplay, all these things. And like I've had the pleasure of watching some of my idols sit in with DMB do the same exact thing I do, sometimes on the same song. I've heard Mike McCready play Rhyme and Reason, or I've heard, Warren Haynes play, you know what I'm saying? Like some of my favorites, Jimmy Herring, for God's sake, is like one of my all-time idol guitar players. Jimmy Herring is like the man. When I was in Egypt, we got in down in at the Georgia Theater and opened up for Colonel Bruce, and it's O'Teal and Jimmy Herring, all the top players in the industry now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was just a kid, like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And I've watched them sitting with Dave on the same songs that I've sit in on the next night, and I'm like, there's some of these rules, and I didn't know, like, I didn't want to overstep any of them, but I knew I wanted to be myself and I wanted to go for it. But like last summer, I said all bets are off. Those rules are gone now for me. Like, you guys don't know it, but Dave has an intercom system, and he's like, when I'm in ears up there playing, he's like, "Get it, Joe, get it, fucking faster, harder, more." You know what I mean? Like, he wants you to go out. When Dave Matthews asks you to sit in with his band, he wants you to do your thing and go the fuck off. He does. And I've even watched like Gary Clark Jr. I think he's one of the most phenomenal living guitar players. Like, he's got that energy. Like, his eyes roll up in his head and he just hits. It's not that he's playing faster or more technical. The first time Dave asked him to sit in, he's like, "I'm not going to bring my pedal board." I'm like, "No, dude. Dave wants your sound, and don't scale anything back." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And he went up there and he played fine, but it was like tink tink. He wasn't Gary Clark Jr. You know what I mean? I was like, Dave wants you to do your thing, man. Like, you don't. And I know that Gary Clark Jr. was being respectful and trying to follow some of these unwritten rules, but at the same time, I've had the opportunity to learn that they want you to go for it. I also have like a personal relationship with Carter, which when you got the drummer in your back pocket and vice versa, you're in a special place because Carter and the Roy used to come see Egypt at the Flood Zone, right? They used
Oh,
to
that's awesome.
my band at the Flood Zone, and then a year later they're selling that place out every Wednesday or whatever, right? But there was a
Wow.
year there where like my band was, But so I've known Carter and I knew Leroy since way back then, and I've had the opportunity to do some work outside of DMB with Carter, some music for ESPN sports bumpers and stuff like that, and it's out there. And so I not we're talking a lot about Dave, but all the dudes factor into this thing too, and my relationship with all of them, and also happen to live in Charlottesville, which is a fluke too. Like, I needed to get out of DC when Egypt was starting to run its course, and I was literally playing the Smokin' on the National Mall, the annual July 4th big Smokin'. I think we were opening for the Butthole Surfers and somebody. And this woman came up to me, Elizabeth, and she was like, I just rented a farm in Crozet, Virginia. You and Andy should move down there. And I think Andy and I packed a U-Haul truck the next day because our Egypt band house where we lived in Northern Virginia had turned into like strippers and blow. It had just like, we get home off the road and everybody was just partying at our house. It was like the epitome of like an old rock and roll Animal House. And we're like, dude, we got to go. We got to move. We got to leave our own house. So I fluked into living in Charlottesville too. It wasn't any kind of calculated choice or anything like that, nor did it have anything at all to do with Dave Matthews Band. But after 2 weeks of living here, the first job I got making money was when they played at the UVA amphitheater, and the then mayor gave him the key to the city. Like Andy Waldeck and I set up all the equipment, and like people started stage diving, and no one in the band or crew knew what to do about it. They weren't used to stage diving. We were. So we stood at the front on the rail and helped people, like push people back and then try to keep it safe, I mean, it just kind of all worked into itself.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
after that gig there, like how did things take off from there?
Well then it was years later, that Bagby, front of house Jeff Thomas, I stayed friends with him. I would go to a DMB show once in a while, like RFK, like in a stadium, just be like, oh my God, Giant Stadium. He's like, come on up, man. You can sleep on the bus. I have a hotel buyout, so you can sleep in my bunk and see what that's like. And, they were giving me a leg up, and I just stayed friendly with people. And what really happened for me was that the guy who had my job before me was Ryan Nichols. Ryan Nichols was the front house sound guy for a band called Everything, which was a Virginia band who got the hooch, Everything, that was in the same time period as Egypt. So there I had a friend. Ryan Nichols really wanted to be a front house guy, and he was never going to get Bagby's job. So he decided to move to LA and try something. So he left my job and suggested me, and Babby said, oh, I know Joe, right, okay. And so because of friends, man, not because of my technical recording ability, not my what it is more about my ability to be on the road, show up on time, ride around with 8 dudes for 20 years in tight circumstances and not kill each other. Things like that are why you get these jobs. You get from friendship. You can go to Full Sail, and that's totally cool because you learn a bunch of stuff and you make a bunch of contacts, but that's not going to get you the job, actually. What's going to get you the job is like friends of friends. People like you, they trust you, They know that you'll show up on time. I mean, that's the thing. It's rock and roll. Everybody wants to party and stay up late, but I got a crew call at 7:30 a.m. If I'm not there, I get oil spotted, which is the spot of oil where the bus was parked when you were supposed to get on it. Now the bus is gone, and all there is oil spot, right? And that's how you get fired and sent home. You have to be accountable. You have to show up every day. People have to know that they can count on you. So I learned a lot in 20 years about how to become accountable and how to become reliable and things like that. And then you get to start having fun because you got that under your belt and people trust you.
That's awesome. A thing that you said when you were talking about, I guess it was probably the McIntyre Amphitheater at UVA, where you kind of were able to help some of the crowd surfers and people trying to get towards the stage and stuff like that. And you knew how to handle it. Well, that kind of makes me laugh because it's like, how many people really want to rush the stage at a DMB show? It's kind of like that. They're not really like that kind of band. But back to your 2006 first experience with the band, guessing there actually was someone that got on stage at the end of the show. I think the second night.
Right. Yeah, that was a big
and
deal, man. That was
we had kind of a side stage view, so it was really weird. It just, that kind of stunk. And then Daryl actually kind of got him and pushed him. I think Carter chucked a stick at him. Was that like scary for you guys? Like, what was that like? Because it seems like that's a big violation that that's scary. Like someone comes up behind Carter, like, yeah,
it was a big deal. It upset Carter. I mean, reasonably so. Also, they hire a security team to make sure that doesn't happen. So, I mean, I'm not trying to diss anybody. Shit happens, but so that kind of stuff is a little bit weird, and it is scary because, like, all of a sudden, what we thought was a constant state, like the stage is a safe space. It's our space. We're in control of this space, and for a second, we weren't. And it's taken really, really seriously. Other weird stuff has happened too. We were playing somewhere one year, and a knife fell out of like 40 feet and stuck into the stage between like Dave and Boyd. I don't even know if people know that. Like, I don't even know. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it. Who knows?
That's on the boards. I've heard that story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one was really crazy to me. And probably, look, there's a bunch of riggers up there all day long, way up in there working. They all have tools on them. It probably makes sense and was nothing. We took all the videotape. I remember we were studying every camera angle and like trying to figure it out. It probably was nothing more than a forgetful rigger or something like that. But that really was like, in the same way as the person at JPJ climbing on the stage, but this was almost like, whoa, is that violence? Like, is that like, talking about weapons here? Like, what's going on? This is not a hip hop show, or not even to tag hip hop as something violent. Just, you're right. I mean, those are strange experiences and few and far between. We've definitely, one of the biggest things for us right now is some of these bigger shows, man, and someone goes down on the floor in front of Dave, someone faints or gets heat exhaustion. It really upsets Dave. He's really worried and scared about it. And it actually is one of the few things that kind of can like stop a show.
Yeah.
We're all on the radio seeing it, getting on it, trying to send the EMTs in there. But there's a couple minutes there where Dave isn't sure that we all know. And is someone going to help this person? And what do I got? Do I got to stop the show and like yell at everybody, or should I like play through, like whatever? So we're trying to figure that out too, because we haven't had many people getting on stage or anything like that. But that happens kind of often in the summer and stuff,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it may just be someone that drank too much or blah, 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 or, a little bit of heat exhaustion. It usually seems like the people end up walking away and it's okay. But we definitely are paying attention to all of that. And it definitely is scary and definitely disrupts. It takes you right out of your, here I am rocking along. It'll take you right out of that real quick. And so we definitely do whatever we can to be organized about things like that, for sure.
Yeah, because Trenchcoat Guy could have ruined having the last stop being played at Seaville.
Yeah, yeah, right. And God, then what would have happened?
Yeah, dude, it was the worst thing ever, Joe. You
The
don't even
boards would
know.
have gone up in
Oh, they
flames.
did. You
Oh
don't
my
know.
The boards were those wild times for the boards.
I
The
tell you,
trench coat guy was
I used to
famous.
watch like some of that stuff. I actually used to watch it a lot, and and after I sat in one of those first few times, someone said that I looked like Ron Jeremy's like stepbrother or something. You know,
Oh my God.
Oh
that's when I
no.
stopped reading. I was like, I can't read this shit anymore. I mean, that's a fair interpretation, whatever. Like, it wasn't that my feelings were hurt about what they said about me, but what I did realize, like, wow, people have opinions, and they seem to have time. I personally, I don't have time to type a bunch of negative shit. Like, I'll type, hey, how you doing? I love you, those type of things, but I don't have time to go, I hate you. What's your fucking problem? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like, me personally, it seems like the internet definitely has given a lot of people like with too much time on their hands some platform for their crappy opinions. And there's mine. So
Yeah. Oh, we're with you there for sure. So are you set up side stage during shows? Is that where
yeah, I'm
you
on
you
stage
record
left
from?
in Monitor World. So like my day is like get there at 8 and eat some breakfast and have a cup of tea, and then there's usually 3 4 audio trucks that are 7-person audio crew has to unload and set up, and my end of it is I set up stage left Monitor World, which includes my recording gear, but I do the first initial stage. We get local hands, so I usually get like 4 people. First, there's a bunch of pushers, push all the stuff in the truck in a pile onto stage left. Then I get 4 hands to build Monitor World, the console you see Ian Kuhn running, Greg his tech next to him with the computer screens. He does all the wireless. We have so many channels of radio wireless stuff. In-ear pack plus an instrument pack. Every musician's got 2 radio frequencies going, so we have a guy who's monitoring all these frequencies, making sure that they're all working and not getting zapped, and weird shit like that. So it's become a whole job. And then so the row behind that is the recording equipment. That's me, where I'm set up with 3 racks that are all recording. I do a 2-track side for instant reference library. That's the board mix coming back from the board to me, left and right. It's the type of thing where Sean goes, hey, I really want to hear what I did on such and such last night. There I have a 2-track instantly that I can, in this day and age, text him. And then I have a multi-track, so I'm running 80 channels, because everything has its own channel, even though Dave doesn't play all 12 guitars every night. Each one has a channel so that if he does, it's set correctly. There's no like getting to it. I have 80 vintage API preamps, which are like the analog 70s warmth of a preamp, going into a very modern digital Pro Tools rig, which is the opposite of warmth. It's like deadly irrit. So the stuff that comes out of my racks has really neat front end 70s preamps, API preamps, going into a state-of-the-art modern digital recording world. So get nice fat warm sounds going into the digital world. And at the same time, I have a laptop that has our database where I keep records about each song. I make sure that the set list changes are recorded, so we have a as written and as played columns for the set list, because Dave likes to change things around from what he originally set out to do, and it changes for whatever reason. I keep notes about songs. I generally keep positive notes, but I do have to say some things like Dave broke a string. So if we're going to look at it for a possible release, you're going to know that halfway through Crash, Dave broke the string. Can we mix that, or is that something we can just let happen and get through? Because sometimes it is, sometimes whatever. But I stay generally positive in the database as much as possible. I also do things like guests, making sure we have their names, what songs they played on, everything spelled correctly for the records, for future if they get released, for so people get recognition for what they did. So I'm taking a lot of notes during the show, and I'm also running the real-time set list that pops up on the website and stuff. So basically, like typing in a song and firing it off when it starts, and adding guests to that as well, so people know who's playing. So I'm set list guy too. Don't tell anybody. You know what I mean? Because then they'll yell at me about the set list. But I don't write it. I just punch in what happens there.
I think everybody knew that.
I know.
Sometimes if it doesn't like update, like if it gets slow, people will be like, "Is Lawlor asleep?"
Yeah, exactly.
Or is he on stage?
He's drunk. Lawler's drunk again. I used to read all that shit. I was like, "Are you serious? I'm so not drunk. Are you kidding me?" Like everybody.
It's just the internet.
Everybody mistypes once in a while. Like if you every word you've ever typed perfectly, you know what I mean? Also, sometimes computers do weird shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like no doubt they didn't play Crash twice in a row. That's a computer issue, right?
That was the reprise.
Yeah. Like I said, like I used to watch all the boards and stuff, and then I had to let go of it, as the band members have to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You have to let go of that at some point. There's just too many opinions, and everyone's welcome to have theirs, but I don't have to read it.
For sure. There was before I forget, Nolan, there was something Joe said in that he, is making sure all the guests are typed out correctly and kind of taking care of that. I heard that they may use some of your equipment, like your amp or something like that, on stage as well.
That's kind of a funny thing that I feel lucky about. But since it became evident that at any moment Dave could text and ask me to sit in, I started carrying a rig, a guitar rig, amplifier, and pedal board with me. And at that point, I got with Craig Baker, Dave's guitar tech, and I was like, well, I got to bring this all the time. Let's put it on your truck with the back line. And when Warren Haynes shows up, or Mike McCready, or all these people, there's a rig. And vicariously, what I get is like all those dudes' mojo through my amp, right? But seriously, the amp's in the other room, and Warren Haynes has played it. Mike McCready's played. I don't even. The list goes on and on and on. Who's played through that amp? So I kind of believe in some of that stuff. That musical gear takes on some of the energy of the people who played it, like a '55 Stratocaster, like that amp. That it's nothing special. It's a stock Mesa Boogie amp that costs under $2,000, and it's nothing special. But all these people have played through it, and that is true. I think that's about to change though, because Craig Baker, Dave's guitar tech, just got a brand new Fender Bassman from the Fender Custom Shop, and he's like, I think I'm going to bring this for the guest amp. So I'm going to have an amp, and there's going to be a guest amp, but they'll have a choice. You want a Fender, you want this Boogie,
Well, if that has to be retired, then which one was the guest? And you don't have to pick like a favorite, but which one is the one where you were like, you fanboyed on the sidelines a little bit more than any other one, where you were just like, oh, that was
yeah. See, I can't even remember all of them. Not that I can't remember them. There's so much and stuff. But I mean, the ones I've mentioned were the one. I mean, Warren Haynes to me is like serious guitar player, that I've been watching for years before I worked with DMB and stuff, and also as with some of these guys like Tim and like Jimmy Herring, one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah,
Warren Haynes is a fucking nice dude.
That's
Jimmy
awesome.
Jimmy Herring is like a Southern gentleman. And I'm like, Jimmy, how do you do this? Like, oh, Joe, it's easy, man. It's either a half step or a whole step. You just pick one or the other and just go. I'm just like, are you serious, dude? Yeah. He's right. It's either a half step or a whole step, either this far or this far. That's it.
We saw him too, Nolan. We saw Jimmy in Atlanta with the band, and then I saw Eric Trucks last year. In Jacksonville. It's like, and then you, and it was like, oh man.
It's funny too. Just happened to the Super Bowl. You saw those pictures. Dave Grohl showed up, right? The Super Bowl, right? So the funny thing is that I used to play in this club called Mexicanos in the Outer Banks, and Dave Grohl on when he was off his first tour with Nirvana would act as the door guy at this club. So I'm friends with Dave Grohl actually from the old days. We also grew up in Northern Virginia, so all those people in his books, like I recorded over at Barrett's house and all this, those are the same places I was hanging out. Although I didn't hang with Dave Grohl there at the same time, but we were friends in the Outer Banks. And when Dave Grohl comes and hangs out with DMB, the first thing he does is goes, "Hey Joe, what's going on?" And all those guys are, how come he knows Joe? Like, yeah, hey Dave.
Big flex.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but he's also a really sweet guy, sometimes you're like inundated with Dave Grohl. He's on the Grammys, he's on these, he's on the Emmys, he's on this. I was like, okay, Dave, you're really good, but Jesus Christ. But, but he's really nice and he is really good. It's like, what are you gonna do? So I don't know, to get to your question, Mike McCready, I didn't really know, and he and Stefan are really great friends. So Mike McCready's played on my amp a couple times, and what I found out is he's a really nice guy and really good guitar players. I'm like, oh, I know that there's some asshole rock stars, but most of the ones that come around us, like, I'm like pleasantly surprised at how super cool they all really are, and how they all really care about music and care about each other and have nice families with cool kids and good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know we saw those photos and I was like, oh, Grohl should have guessed it. What was he doing? He should have been on stage.
Man, he just like showed up with a little entourage of family like halfway through the show. Like it wasn't even like Dave Grohl's coming or anything like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, Flava Flav was there too with Anderson, and there's pictures of Anderson .Paak, Flava Flav, Dave Grohl, and Dave Matthews. Like, I'm just like, oh man,
amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
That's too good.
It is a really pretty fun job a lot of the time.
I bet, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, we just asked you about guitar
come on.
player. You
they didn't play on my amp, but like Santana. Like my dad was with me at Golden Gate Park when we played there, and my father, who was a hippie in California and grew up on Santana, and like Santana comes to sit in and like ask me for some songs to listen to, so I have interaction with Santana. My dad standing next to me, just going,
Oh my gosh,
Neil Young, man, like watching Neil Young in sound check with DMB, right? They're like playing Watchtower, and they're really getting it, and Neil Young goes, "Stop. That's enough of that. We're going to save it for tonight." And he was absolutely right. Like, there's no reason to keep jamming at sound check. You know what I mean? Like, he got him to a certain place. Everybody was in the right zone. And he's like, "Stop, save it for tonight." And I was like, Neil Young's really cool too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
These are amazing.
How about Willie Nelson? How about sitting there working with Willie Nelson and Dave? Like Trigger, they just throw up on a road case over by me, like doesn't have a case, and it's like the most famous guitar in the world, right? Sits on top of like one of my cases, and like the first 2 times we worked with Willie Nelson, he'd walk by the Monitor World and me at the end of his set and be like, "Thanks a lot, guys. Come meet me on the bus later." And I was like, he can't be talking to me, right? He's not talking to me. He's not talking to me the first 3 times. And finally, like the 4th time, I was like, I'm just going to try it. And after the show, I knocked on the door and they're like, "Oh, come on in,
Amazing.
You know what happened after that?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I was at those shows at Fenway Park when Willie guested. Yeah.
That's Gravedigger. Dude, I mean, how about that guy, man? Like, he's got so many hits. He plays like 35 seconds of each one, and then just like moves an elbow, and they move to the next one. Like he just goes, and he's into another hit, and then and then do another hit. I'm just like, shit, man. That is so
Amazing.
cool. Yeah.
So, okay, you've seen all these guys guest. You've also seen a ton of songs played and songs liberated over the years. Is
Yeah.
there one that like, or several that just
Yeah.
like blew you away and you were like, oh, I didn't think I'd ever
Yeah.
hear that one, or, something like
Well,
that?
I don't think I have the same experience with it. I'm not aware of some of the early stuff. Um, you know what I'm saying? I'm not quite
Yeah.
aware of liberation as much as maybe like fans who've been fans since the beginning. When I first got my job, I had to learn the names of things, and like little different endings had name, blue water versus water into wine, like these little things that like they were hard for me to learn, that everyone was like, whoa, that wasn't really blue water, or whatever. I'm just like, I don't really know what what that is. So honestly, I don't know. I can't quite answer the liberation question because I'm not really aware of some things as they're being liberated. You know what I mean?
That's
I
fair.
mean, obviously,
Well, how
there's.
dare you?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a good story for that one.
What about
But
a song that they played where you were like, oh, okay, that's cool?
yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and like I was lucky enough to, my second or third year as an employee was the Dave and Friends tour, which was this weird anomaly of things that I thought was really special because I'm like Brady Blade and Tony Hall are like my buds from New Orleans, man. Like, those are badass dudes, man. I mean, um, like I met Brady through his brother Brian because I tour managed an artist named Chris Whitley, and we played the Mint in L.A. like 2001. And this guy was heckling us, and I was playing guitar with Chris Whitley just as a duo. And this guy was heckling. He's like, well, that guitar player is pretty good, but he doesn't sound as good as Danny Lemois. And it turned out to be Daniel Lemois, who was great friends with Chris Whitley because he produced one of his records. And we end up in the Hollywood Hills at Danny Lemois' house. And, like all these weird, cyclical things, meeting people through other people. I forget what I was really trying to say there.
No,
Well,
that was cool.
it had a point, though. It had a point. It reverted back to what you were saying. Anyway, we can move forward.
Dave and Friends was awesome.
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
Dave and Friends. So I love Brian, or Brady Blade, and Tony Hall. I wasn't the hugest Trey fan, but I was interested in seeing Tim interact with any other guitar player. I don't think Trey was in his best place then. I think more recently he's in a way better place and like is a way cooler person and better player. At the time he was kind of in not a great place. So that was a little bit weird, but that whole Dave and Friends experience, I felt really lucky. So, and that was kind of like Dave doing his own thing and winning a Grammy, and it was kind of a little hush hushy sort of, like the band and then Dave and Friends, and so it never really got talked about. But then slowly, some of those songs filtered back into the band and started popping up. So you're saying, things popping up like that happened for me when some of those songs from Dave's solo record slowly popped into the band's vocabulary. It was neat when Gravedigger with Carter on Gravedigger, it was like a whole different version of Gravedigger, or there's other examples, right? Like, and there's some really cool songs there, I thought. And so for me, like Liberation, that's as close as I can get, is like, wow, so some of those songs from that place came into this space and were cool too.
We need some more of those though. He'll play them with Tim down in Mexico. But like a Too High and Dodo and stuff. That would be cool.
Those.
Full band.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
you were saying, and Nolan asked, about different songs. You were talking about different guests, but
Yeah.
a lot of differences for the band has been just iterations of the band itself. Like they've,
Yeah.
you lose, you had Butch, and then
Yeah.
and he left, and then you added Tim, and then Roy passes, and then you've got Jeff, and Rashawn was thrown in, and now we've got Buddy, and we lose the violent. Like all these things
Yeah.
have happened, and they've all happened since you've been there. You've seen
Yeah.
all of it. So
That's
like,
true.
what has it been like to not only kind of watch that from up close, but also
Yeah.
you're seeing it on stage and
Yeah.
behind the scenes and just kind of soaking it all in. What
Yeah.
is that really like?
I got a bunch of thoughts on that. It instantly made me think of Leroy, because I was friends with him probably first and way
Oh
before
wow.
anybody was really famous or anything. And although he was a complicated person, he was one of the nicest guys ever when he was a nice guy. And he was an amazing musician, and he studied and he knew everything about music and about jazz and about the players. He was an encyclopedia of that stuff. And he also was like a really generous soul. And also the way Roy could play one note and like make the whole PA sing was amazing to me. The way he would start a solo with this weird jazzy kind of wrong note and hold it. And the PA, I felt like the speakers would start actually vibing with him, like he was like controlling. He knew, Roy really knew. He was the one who knew that Dave Matthews Band could be what it was. He understood combining violin and saxophone and pop songs and African rhythms and fusion drumming, that could be a mainstream thing. Roy actually understood that. And you can tell that from how he would support Boyd. Let's go. Right? Let's just do that over and over through the whole song. Like, come on, seriously? And how Roy would kind of temper his tuning of those notes to go with Boyd, right? He would purposely play a little out of tune to sound in tune with Boyd. That's what a caring, thoughtful, like sophisticated musician that Leroy was, And he understood that those little hooks like that could really like draw different people from different styles of music into their listening space, So number one, there was that. And so Roy, we didn't understand quite why Roy brought Rashawn in while he was living, but now we do, because Rashawn had the opportunity to be tutored by the man on stage. He got to play for what, a year or a year and a half with Roy
Yeah,
on
two full
stage.
tours, I think.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So there was a thing, some sort of like Roy kind of knew maybe where he was heading, and brought Rashawn in. So there was like the first real change was like, there's another horn player up there, right? In my tenure with the band. And then now Leroy's not there, and Leroy suggested Jeff Coffin. Now it's these two guys trying to play one guy's stuff well. And so there was a new iteration, which, had its ups and downs. Some of it was really neat and exciting, and some of it was like, dude, play like Roy, just play one note that makes the PA sing. Stop going, you know what I mean? There was like, because Roy had that thing, right? You were almost like, is he going to play? Like his solo would come up and he'd play nothing. Is he going to play? Play? But it was all calculated, dude. He was like making you want that note. You know what I mean? And I'm immature. I go up there and go, blah, blah. But Roy kind of knew something about music. So watching that whole thing shift was a thing. Butch, I guess, was like the next thing, and Butch was an amazing musician and a really good, just like all around keyboard player. So that was cool. I guess Tim wasn't in the band and Butch was. Butch played a lot of Dave's guitar parts behind Dave to thicken the sound. It was like a calculated side guy thing. Like, I'm, gonna play these parts to make Dave sound. And Dave wasn't as reliable with his playing as he is today. Like I started out this interview with, back then, Dave would be the first to admit it. He was finding his way as a guitar player and a singer, which is what everybody's got to remember. Is that, yeah, you can play Dave's guitar part, but can you play and sing what he's singing at the same time? Satellite as your basic things, you like play that riff and sing that melody. I dare you. There's not many people that can do it. There's not many people that can do it in front of 25,000 people. Anyway, I digress. So there was Butch, and then all I know about Butch is like he just bailed one day. He just bailed, like literally bailed, like a text, like, sorry, I'm done. And that was a really weird scene. I'm like, oh, okay. But then Tim was in, which for me was amazing because when I was in Egypt, I had an unmarked cassette tape that I found on our band van floor, and I played it, and I was like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And I listened to it for about 6 months. Every time I had to drive all night and everybody's snoring in the back, I'd listen to this cassette over and over again. One time I'm at a gas station in Richmond, and another band van pulls up to the other pump, and I forget who it was, what band it was, but they're like, oh, cool, you're listening to Tim Reynolds. And I'm like, oh, is that what that is? Like, yeah, that's Tim Reynolds and TR3. I've been listening to for 6 months, like learning. It's like how I learned volume swell, using the volume on notes, like how I learned, a bunch of stuff was like through this tape, and I didn't even know who it was. It turned out to be Tim Reynolds. That's before I even worked with DMB or anybody, So Tim's always been an influence on me. That's why I call him like my Jedi master, because now we're friends, which is amazing for me. I stand next to Tim and like, and I'm giant. He's tiny. He plays twice as fast as me and can reach like way far. I have huge hands. He has teeny little hands that he can reach from here to here with his hand, and I can only reach from here to there. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I love him. So Tim being in the band, and Tim's like the input that you go, like if you can't figure out the mix that night, like just turn Tim up, because he always plays in tune and he always plays the parts. And now so then what happens next? I guess Boyd leaves, and Boyd was Boyd. I don't really know what to say. I don't really want to speak negative about anybody, and there's really no reason to. I think it was really integral to the band having a violin, and a person like him playing the violin was really integral to the band being different and drawing in even another section of people, but then we get to Buddy, and all I can really say about that is, first off, Buddy's really nice, really awesome player. He did it right as a side guy. I was there for the first rehearsal. That dude already knew 100 tunes, had little notes in his iPad, and Dave just started reeling off tunes and he knew them, which is a huge skill. And he knew them in his own way, not doing what people had done before him, but doing them his way, using different sounds and stuff, and playing differently. And all I can really say is I think the band is like at one of its high points right now. They are super happy to play music together as a group. There have been times when I've been working for DMB where it's a bunch of individuals up there. But when Buddy came in, the groove came back and the group effort came. Not that it was gone, but it just strengthened. It strengthened all of that. And I think they're in a really good musical place, like consistency wise. Like Dave's more consistent. He's got Rob Stevenson on as his vocal coach. I was there the day he met, Dave and Sting and Rob was vocal coaching for Sting. We were at the Atlanta, some outdoor big thing in Atlanta 10 years ago or whatever. And Dave went in and sat in on Sting's vocal warm up with Robert Stevenson. And Dave came out like, I just sang higher than Sting out of that. And ever since then, Rob has been coaching Dave as well. And Dave's voice, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but is super consistent now. Like, he has good and bad nights. But you know what happens now is, like, halfway through a song, he starts to blow out. And by the end of the song, he's got it back. And Rob's taught him and helped him with all that. And I know from recording Dave's voice in in-ears for 20 years what's really going on there. And the dude is way more consistent, way more solid, able to pick proper notes instead of just freak out and lose it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's a lot of weight on your shoulders doing what he does, singing all those songs, playing all those songs every night. It's hard to do. No one can really do it as well. And Rob's been really consistent. The whole band is super consistent right now and happy, right? The only thing is happening is we're all getting older. Like, it's been 20 years. I'm 55. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all getting older, man. Carter's how old? Tim's how old? I'm not saying that their skills are any less or anything, but we are getting older, and stamina and physicality are parts of what we do. And so there's that happening. But I think also with that comes wisdom and knowledge and respect for each other. So I think the band's in a really super place because of that, because of the wisdom, because of everything they've been through. And they're really communicating now, and they're really having fun. They enjoy going up there and playing. No one's going, oh man, you know, no one's bummed out. I mean, I can't speak for everybody. That's what I see. That's what I feel. You know what I mean? But I've seen all those personnel changes, and some of them were tricky, but they always made the best of it and moved on in a good way. But now I feel they're in a really super solid place.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's great insight. Seems like they are in a great place and having like the best time playing together.
That's what I see and hear, you know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, me and Bruce talk about that too. It's like, man, they're having fun, and that's, as long as they're playing live music, I mean, we'll be going to shows. So that's awesome.
Well, it's weird, you know, but like Dave could just play with whoever, and a lot of people would go and enjoy it. But the band's really integral to Dave Matthews Band, you know what I mean? And the Dave Matthews Band is in a really good place right now. It's not exactly the same as the band that it was 27 years ago, but it's a really good version of it, you know?
Yeah. And gearing up for another tour and a new album. Man, exciting stuff. Yeah, how will you be gearing up for the tour? What's that like?
For me, well, it's hard to leave home. I live with a wonderful woman, Kristen Ray Bowden, and we play music together. So we have a romantic relationship and a musical relationship, which is intense and pretty amazing. Because when we experience like a good gig moment, like there's, you know, you're experiencing with somebody you love, it's pretty amazing. So it's hard to leave, and it's a little bit tricky because I want to do my own music and I want to do stuff with her, but I have to go. You know, it's a great job. I can't. I guess I'm a lifer because I'm not really gonna be like quitting. Like, where am I? I couldn't make. They take care of me well. I mean, I'm not rich, but like for a musician, for where I'd be if I didn't have my job, I'd be a starving musician at 55, you know. Instead, I own a house. It's not a fancy house. It's a beat up house. I own a car. I have guitars on my wall. It's because of this job, you know, or partly because of that, you know. And I feel kind of committed to it in a sense. Like they stuck by me and take care of me. So I guess I'm a lifer. So I don't know where it's gonna go or how long it's gonna go, somebody could make a decision tomorrow. You know what? I'm done. And that would be just fine if they did everything they needed to do. Kind of doubt it with these guys. I think they're going to just like keep on rolling, you know? And I know that Dave won't stop until he cannot do it. Because he's probably playing a song to his kids right now, or right, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
probably.
He doesn't need 25,000 people to make him feel like he's doing he likes to play music, you know what I mean? He'll do that by himself. He'll do that with 3 people. He can also seem to transfer to 60,000. So pretty interesting. Carter's job is super physical. Who could do Carter's job? I couldn't. I mean, let alone just wave all 4 of your limbs for 3 hours like this. Just do it. You know, I can't do that. You know, so I don't know. He's still playing at optimum level. You know, but
they kind of all are, and we're real eager to hear. Obviously they're doing some new music. They've got a new record coming, and so for you there will be some new songs that you'll get to hear on tour, and some new stuff to put on the set list to update us on.
We have I think 5 or 6 days of rehearsal coming up right before the tour, and that's what's going to happen. There's going to be new tunes busted out. Yep.
So you'll be hearing some of those before the rest of it, because the album releases on the first day of the tour. Do you like, when they do these albums, do you get into any of that beforehand, like before it's releases? You're like, Dave, like, what's it sounding like, or how's it going? How does that kind of work with you?
So when they were making this album, it was COVID, and they were doing it in safe groups, and everyone was trying to figure out what that meant. And there was a nurse on site, and we were testing before anybody was testing, and all that kind of shit. They got together in like groups of 2 and 3. There was never all of the band in the same room at once. And it was mostly done here in Charlottesville. And so I would go up to the studio. I stayed away mostly because people weren't really invited, because it was COVID. Like, we didn't know how to move through that yet. But at some point I went up there when things opened up a little bit, and Dave asked me to come sit in the control room and listen to his new album. And so I got to hear it, a year ago or something, and so I had an idea of what was going on then. Other albums I've been involved with in different ways. A couple of the album, Grugruck's King, and one before that, I filmed. They tapped me because the band liked me and wouldn't be bothered by me. I was in New Orleans for 3 months on the Grugruck's King record with a camera and a bunch of hidden cameras and a bunch of mics all hooked into a little room, and I filmed, for 3 months straight, like every single thing, which is kind of a waste of time. But someday someone's going to edit that shit down to 1 hour, and it's going to be really cool. You know what I mean? And to let you guys know, that kind of stuff's in the vault, and we know it's in the vault, and we don't just let it go. We're like, wait and do it right. Like we don't sell albums on USB drives. You don't walk out with a Dave Matthews, we could. But these guys actually sell records, and we also like to quality control, and we like try to release like good stuff and the best stuff. But we're really conscious with the archiving. I'm an archivist, and there's a copy of everything in our vault. There's a copy at Hollywood vaults when the Armageddon goes down, and there's going to be plenty of Dave Matthews recordings stored up, for those who care at that point, But so some of those records, I was there like every day with a camera, feeling shitty because I'm a musician, and I've been in the studio making record, and if somebody was in my face with the camera all day, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face. So I was like trying to straddle some line between my job and knowing what a musician wants, you know what I mean? So So one of those albums we made up at Stone Gossard's place in Seattle. I hooked up with GoPro, and GoPro cameras had just come out, and I was like, hey, I could put these things like all over the place, clamped on mic stands and stuff like this, and be totally unobtrusive and just like sit in a back room with a bunch of like, and just like, which was a cool idea, except for, you know what, GoPros look really cool when there's action and they're moving, but a static GoPro camera just on your face while you're playing the guitar isn't really the most interesting shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it was a cool idea, but what I ended up with was like terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of footage, 20 GoPros running, on SD cards, 8 hours a day for 3 months. Think about it, There's
I think they put out like some 5 2-minute videos from that.
Right, exactly. That's all that's ever been used.
We need more.
Yeah, exactly. So we've changed our strategy sometimes on that, but this past record there was cameras running too, so we'll see stuff that come out of that, I'm sure, at some point. I mean, we take us archivists. Tucker Rogers works at the studio at home, and I send him all my recordings, and then he duplicates and catalogs and sends one version to Hollywood Vaults and puts one in our vault. And he deals with the whole archive sitting in Charlottesville, and so he's taking in the video, he's taking in tickets and T-shirts, like an example of everything for the archive. Dave's old guitars are in there. Tim's, tapestry, whatever, like we have everything in the archive, and it exists, and it's on the database, and it's cataloged, and it's organized, and all that stuff will be there, and will come out. We'll trickle its way out. The best.
Lots of money to be made. Lots of money to be made on some of that.
Well,
stuff.
That's part of it. Korn watched the Grateful Dead sell their archive for $80 million. 20 years ago, so ours is more extensive, right, and money's worth more or less now, or whatever you look at it. So yeah, we take it seriously, but it also takes a band. They spend money on my salary. I have a $250,000 recording rig that I have to keep up. You know what I mean? They spend money. It creates jobs, and it's archival. So it's cool,
Oh, it's real cool, and
important.
And important. I can't let you get away with it, though, since you said you've heard the album. We don't need you to give away spoilers, but because the DMB fan base is so rabid and they just want every little tidbit, give us a little something. Did you like it? What are we going to expect? Because there's still some that we haven't heard.
Yeah, I mean,
let's hear the Joe Lawlor take on Walk Around the Moon.
I mean, I feel weird saying anything about Dave's work until he lets people hear it. He invited me to hear it, and I felt really lucky because I didn't work on that album. So he literally invited me to come in and sit down and listen to it.
That's awesome.
I did like it. I think from the song that's released, you get somewhat of a picture of what it sounds like. There are many different types of songs, as in with all Dave Matthews, where there's little bitty songs and there's big, huge songs. I thought there was, like, I've only heard it once, you know what I mean? And I've heard a few more songs a couple more times than that. And they've messed with a couple songs. What Dave and Tim did, Monsters, I think, is a new one.
Yep.
So I've heard that, but that's not what the band's going to play on that even. So, but I
good. That's what we were hoping. There it is.
Yeah.
That sounds like that one was a good song that they played. Yeah. We really like that.
I mean, I don't really know any more than you do. I did sit down and listen to the record in a really nice studio, really loud, with Dave Matthews, and I like
so cool.
But you got to take that with a grain of salt too, because like I said, I was never the biggest Dave Matthews fan in the first place. So like my opinion is kind of like different, coming from a different place. I've grown to love the band because of the reasons I've talked about, because they take chances, because they know a great catalog, because they're brothers playing together for 27 years without killing each other. Like, I've been in bands, you know, my band broke up, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Every band I've ever been in broke up, you know, so you know, I got in fist fights with people, and you know, I'm not violent. So, you know, the fact that they survive and continue to play music and smile and laugh and tell jokes and shit is pretty cool to me. But as far as the new record goes, I think it's really good. I think people will enjoy it. But also I'm sure that there'll be some fans that are not satisfied, and there will be some that are greatly satisfied, and some people will take 5 years to grow on them, and they'll be like, oh, you know what, that turned out to be my favorite record. Like all of us, right? I mean, it's like some of my favorite records, the first time I listened to them, I didn't like it, right? You know, and then the 10th time I listened to it, I was like, oh my God, I can't stop.
There it is.
You know,
Yep.
Just don't get on the boards and look and see what those people think about.
So yeah, so I don't know, but I mean from what's the name of the song that they released?
Madman's Eyes.
Madman's Eyes. So it's like, yeah. Sorry, you're asking the set list guy here.
Dude, it's all good.
Yeah, but
you said it. You've got 140 songs.
Yeah. Well, but that I mean, that to me was like a throwback to what, like minarets and like the Middle Eastern scale thing, and I love that shit because like I listen to metal guitar players and stuff, and you know that's kind of the scale, you know, the you know, that's like kind of that Middle Eastern thing or whatever you want to call it. So I really dig that, and there's some songs like that. There's some other big songs like that, not necessarily Middle Eastern, but you know, they've got this new thing of Rashawn writing these horn sections, and there was string section, you know, there's some big stuff and some little teeny stuff, like Dave likes to say, you know. So I don't know, I can't really answer much about the album. I liked it, and
that was good enough, man.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear it too.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing it too.
Yeah. So just a couple more here. I know we've taken up a lot of your time here, but what's your favorite part of the job?
There's a couple things I've learned. One is, whether I'm playing or recording or setting up gear, I'm part of a big production that's whole intent and purpose is for people to enjoy and have a good time. Like, we do a bunch of work starting at 8 in the morning, all aimed toward 8 o'clock at night for the show to start. And like 25,000 people march in, they have a really good time, then they leave happy, and we tear it down. It's kind of a cool cycle of events. Like, I'm pretty lucky that I get to work on a production where our intent is for people to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, not building nuclear power plants, or you know what I mean? It's like it's about fun and music and good time, and you know, so I like that. I also have found that I like having a schedule, knowing what I'm supposed to do at certain times of the day. I can be a lazy person and sit on the couch without direction. When I'm at work, there's like a day sheet, like 8 a.m. he's eating breakfast, 8:15 he's dumping the audio truck, 9 o'clock he's setting up the monitor board, 10 o'clock, you know what I mean? And I kind of like that because I get a lot done that way. So that's one of my favorite parts of it. But and I love to travel. I've gotten to go around the world. I've filled 3 passports in 20 years. You know, been to Africa and Santiago, Chile, all on the guise of music. All because this dude sits there and writes songs, right? Like, you can sit there in your house and write a song, and it can get like 100 people and private jets and tractor trailers around the world, you know, from a song. Like, I dig that. You know?
That's a cool way to look at it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Bruce, rapid
Let's
fire
do
time.
it. I think it's
Oh,
time.
shit.
I think it's time. Like you
Oh,
said, Joe has
no.
given us so much, so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hit them with the rapid fires. First one, and some of these real easy, and
Yeah.
I think that they're easy. Favorite DMB song.
Really, right now, Stay or Leave.
Wow.
Love it.
I just think it's a really well written, beautiful song. And I have, with my partner Kristen's help, because she's a lyricist and a singer. But in my older age, where all I used to listen to was for the guitar player, and I didn't really care what the lyrics were or anything. So I love Van Halen, right? Like ripping, but the lyrics were what, sexual, high school, fast car stuff, right? But in my age, I have come to appreciate lyrics and melody more, and I think "Stay or Leave" is a really beautiful song.
Good one. Okay, favorite non-DMB song to play along or like solo on? You're just messing around.
Jeff Beck just passed away, and he's one of my favorite guitar players. So I've been working on Because We Ended as Lovers. It's a classic. I can't play it right, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I love it. So that's my favorite right now to play along with.
That's great.
I love that. Okay, so favorite DMB album from all of theirs, if you have one, and then non-DMB album.
Yeah, DMB albums. Geez, I don't really know. I was kind of, I don't really know, because I just look at it as like the set each night. I don't really like albums.
Yep.
I don't know them that well, but something I liked about the Grugruck's King album, because that was a tough transition with Leroy gone, and we were in New Orleans, and I made like really good musical friends in New Orleans. It's not necessarily about the album, it's about the time that was spent there. But my best friend Shaggy, Chris Davis, he kept picking me up from the studio. We get off at 2 a.m, and he'd take me to Tipitina's and the Maple Leaf, and he put me at the front of the line to sit in and jam with people. And all of a sudden I was jamming with Ivan Neville and all these New Orleans people, Trombone Shorty and his band, and like all this stuff, and like that whole New Orleans experience. And I think that really filtered into that record well. And I also think it was right after Katrina, and Dave was like, when the Dave Matthews Band gears up to go make a record, they spend a lot of money in whatever city that is. They all get apartments, and we all rent cars, and we rent the studio out, and we hire catering, and a lot of money. He's like, well, let's go to New Orleans where people need money. Let's go spend our money making our record in a city that needs help. So I thought that was cool. So I like that record a lot. And my favorite record, non-DMB record, and Van Halen 1, baby. It's like changed my life,
There you
I'm
go.
sorry, but it did, Right? He talking about love, all that stuff. But Van Halen 1 was Joe Lawlor, 1978. So what was I, 10? And dancing around my underwear with the stereo, my first stereo, and unwrapping Van Halen 1, and just like freaking the fuck out. Like, what the hell?
It was over.
Yep, it was all over. I don't really, play a lot of Eddie's stuff, but his reckless abandon and his energy on stage and just making people have a good time through the guitar, I value and emulate. I like that stuff.
Very good. Very good choice. Favorite song to guest on with DMB?
Yeah, man, I had a bunch of fun playing some different ones this summer. Lion Our Graves, which I'd never thought of, and literally ran out to the tour bus and went, wait, how does that go? Like, once again, I record them all the time. I know the arrangements. I know when the verse, the chorus, the solo comes up, but I don't know where you put your fingers to make that happen until I kind of go check it out. And I literally ran out there. And it's not a complicated song, but it's also got some changes and some parts and some feels that change in that song. And when I got into the solo of that, we really went somewhere. I got taken, you know. I mean, that's it for me. Is eyes roll up in the head, and you stop like calculating and thinking about what you're doing, and stuff's just happening, and it's driven by the other players and the crowd, but you're not trying anymore. And so I enjoyed that this year on Lion Our Graves. I got to that place. So right now, that was really fun. Lion Our Graves.
There we go.
Well, how about, and you mentioned earlier, you kind of thought like, oh, if I had it all, with like this needs me, like kind of it spoke to you kind of thing. Let's do it. What song have you not guested on, but you really want to? So if like Dave gave you he said, Joe, you tell me and we'll do it. It's one you haven't done before.
That's a really good question. There's not easily answering that. I can't answer that. I try not to think about them that way, because I try not to like preconceive anything that's happening in my life as far as this DMB stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when I'm gonna guess, and sometimes I guess and I feel like a huge rock star, but I'm not. As soon as I'm done, I mean, but I'm not saying that in a negative way, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in the band, and I'm not getting paid what the band gets paid, and I'm not selling records and getting, you know, and sometimes I get recognized and stuff from it, but also I've had my own career as a musician that sometimes I get recognized from too. So it's not all that. So I can't answer that question. I take it as it comes, you know. Dave texts me a song. I like that one. I'm sorry.
So two-step or spoon.
Okay, that's what you're thinking? Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, I'd take those. Yeah.
It's hard to know until you play it. Like, I wouldn't have thought Lie in Our Graves was gonna get me to that spot, but there's something about that melody. And you know, during that solo section, it's a circle of chords, and then the second time it changes to an E minor for one chord, and then it's a circle of chords, and then the E minor, and there's something about that drop and lift of that chord when I'm soloing over it. It was really fun. I felt emotion from it, gave me emotion, and it changed what I was playing without thinking, you know? So that's what.
Yeah.
So I guess it's hard for me to know until I play it, is my answer to that question.
That makes sense.
All right.
Venue that you would love to take the stage at or on?
Man, I've been so lucky. Dave's had me at like the Gorge, right? Classic venue. I've gotten to play there like 4 or 5 times, and with my dad. My dad's side of the family lives in Seattle. I've had like my stepmom, my dad, and my half sister all there at the Gorge watching me play. The fog coming in, and yeah, so I played at Hollywood Bowl. You know, Dave threw me up against John Mayer. Like, John Mayer came in and told Dave he was going to play. Dave's like, okay, but I'm gonna put my roadie on before you just to fuck with you, you know. Playing Hollywood Bowl. That was back when John was kind of a dick, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't say that, but I think he's much cooler now. And but he was in that period, and you know, they were asking Dave to tutor him, and Dave was trying to be nice to him, and John was just like, whatever, you shit on Chicago. And I was like, okay, that's not the truth. The bullshit, whatever. So that was a weird time. So I literally, John like marched into the gig at Hollywood Bowl with a gig bag on and said, oh, what do you want me to play on? You know, something. They didn't demand it, but it was like kind of like, you were invited, you know what I mean? And so, but of course, Dave was like, okay, cool. But I'm going to put my roadie on the song before, 2 songs before or something, you know? And John Mayer is an amazing guitar player. I can't play half as good as him, but that was funny. So I don't know what next. I guess for me it would be like it would be somewhere out of the United States is what I'd have to say, you know. I'd love to play like we did these weird gigs in Lisbon, Portugal, where we get there and we're playing in this huge arena, and I asked Jeff Trump, the ticketing guy, like, how many sold? And he's like 3,000. I'm like, oh man, this place holds 20,000 people. And by 8 o'clock that night, they've sold 18,000 tickets. And I guess it's just the way Portuguese people do it. They don't really buy ahead and they all show up late. But it's gone from like a scary, like, we're going to be in a big giant place in Portugal and no one's going to be here, to like soccer chant crowd, the longest DMB's ever played, right? Those Lisbon shows.
Oh, yeah.
Like 3 hours and 18 minutes, man, 4 encores. Like if you listen to the beginning of that show, they're doing the soccer chant, you know, all that stuff. And then the band comes in, I think, on Don't Drink the Water, and they're in the right key, and like they're just droning, boom, boom, and it's like this whole interchange from the get-go. It's like, so that I'd like to play there. I'd like to play in Lisbon, Portugal.
There we go. That's
That's
awesome.
Amazing answer.
Yeah.
All right. Last one for me, and this can be one, you can choose one or both. What song, you can call it a deep cut if you want, for the band that they may have not played in a while, or cover that you're like, y'all need to play. Do you want to see show up here, 2023? Because they seem to kind of throw in both of those every single year. There's something that comes out, either cover or deep cut. What does Joe Lawlor want?
So I'm not good with the deep cuts, but I can go with the covers. And this is serious and also funny, but what would we call it? David Lee Roth Matthews. I want to hear a Van Halen cover. Me and Henry the drum check make some funny jokes about it, David Lee Roth Van Halen. So yeah, let's go with Atomic Punk by Van Halen.
Love it. Excellent. Yeah. Tim, lead us in. I guess Joe, you can sit in too.
I mean, I do love a lot. They do covers pretty well. I mean, the Led Zeppelin covers are pretty banging, man. I mean, one part of that is having Carter. You can't do a good Zeppelin cover unless you got a banging drummer. But I mean, even Sledgehammer, I mean, it's overplayed pop tune, but man, they do a kicking version of it, that's for sure. And I remember they did some other Zeppelin tune that was it Out on the Tiles? I don't know. There's some cool stuff I'd love to hear them play. But once again, man, it's like you can't really direct any of that stuff. You have to let all these choices happen, man. Like fans get uptight about it or feel like I don't know. And I understand that, and also it takes fans caring that much to make a band work too. Like if the fans didn't care that much, then there wouldn't be a reason to do all this. But at the same time, I really do feel like Dave's a pretty good leader, and he makes pretty good decisions. Sometimes they take a while, or sometimes they take a little while for me to understand why he made them. But that's my problem, not his. I think he kind of knows what's going on. So I bet he'll whip out some cover tune that will make us all stop and remember this conversation and laugh, because it'll be cool as shit, whatever it is. Yeah.
All right, last one. Is there, in your opinion, a best show that they've ever played?
Well, Dave and Tim was night 2 of this past week in Mexico, or 2 weeks ago in Mexico. Best show, you know what, I already brought it up, but that Lisbon show was a cool ass band show, where between the crowd and the band, and being international, where people didn't know about the Dave Matthews Band as much as they do here. Like it could have gone either way. People could have been standing there you know, like, what's this? And I've even watched some things like that, like some of those big European festivals, Pink Pop and stuff. What was the lineup that day? Evanescence, 30 Seconds to Mars, Korn, and Dave Matthews Band on the same stage. Like backstage, it was Battle of the Drummers. You think that Carter has a big drum set? Like the dude from Korn has a drum set that has like coffins and gravestones and smoke blowers and fire things. So backstage was these huge risers with huge drum kits, you know? And I was just like, oh my God, holy shit. And I just remember watching these two like rock and roll girls front and center on the rail, and they're fucking loving Evanescence, and they're loving 30 Seconds to Mars, and they're loving Korn, and then Dave comes out, and they kind of get kind of sleepy on the rail. But you know what? 2 songs into it, they were like starting to groove. And then by about halfway through the show, they were dancing around. And I was like, that's pretty cool, man. I wish America was a little more like that, you know? Like in Europe, they'll have a festival where it goes, like, you know, whatever, soft rock into death metal, back to disco. And there's something kind of cool about that, you know? Kind of like the genre bending and stuff like that. But what was your question?
Oh, best show that they've
Yeah, I
ever
gotta
played.
go. I'm just gonna go right now with that Cool Lisbon one. Just the energy and the vibe were so cool. And going from at noon, there was 3,000 tickets sold, and at 8 p.m. there was 18,000 tickets sold, or whatever. I might be off on that. I'm probably exaggerating the numbers, but not much. I think it was really close to that. And then just the whole energy and the musicality between the crowd, like European fans with that soccer chant and stuff. There was and they did the wave around the play. Like they were really into it, man. They were really, really into it, man. And
That's
that was
sick.
cool. Yeah.
That's
Nolan,
cool.
we'll
Good
have
answer.
to start the wave in Charleston this year when we go see him. We'll be if you see the wave in Charleston.
Yeah, that'll be us. Yeah.
I'll take a note in the database. It'll be in the archive forever.
Yes.
We'll get it
Oh
going.
man.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Joe, thank you like so much. We really, really appreciate it. I mean, it's been multiple hours at this point, and you know, we were kind of like, yeah, well, you know, we don't want to take over an hour of his time, like all this stuff, and you show up and you've got your guitar on and you were ready to rock in every facet. So thank you so much.
What musician doesn't want to talk about themselves and what they want to do? Thanks for the outlet, bro. No, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Were fun to talk to, and I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy having a forum to put a couple things out there, like let things happen, and you know, these guys work really hard, and I'm really lucky to work with them, and we're lucky to have them, and it's cool stuff.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys for having me. I enjoy it.
Yeah, we appreciate the perspective.
Cool.
Absolutely. And especially two guys that were there in 06 in Seville and like have kind of seen it all, and then being glued to dmbsetlist.com back in the day. And I mean, this has been awesome. So thanks so much.
Well, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have a job, right? So,
if it wasn't for you nerds.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd. I'm the biggest nerd. Look at me, guitar nerd.
So, and I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't do this and let you do one more thing. Obviously, thank you for joining. But what do you want to plug on your side for you, your partner, Kristen Ray, and what you do? You know, obviously, in your life that isn't DMB, because there's so much more to it than just that.
Okay, so one thing is I have a duo with Kristen Ray Bowden, and BOWDEN, and you can check her out she has a website and her music out. She just released a song that I played on, and then in the next couple months she'll be releasing some other songs that I played on, leading up to a song that we co-wrote. We have a duo together. You can check us out. I also just made a record with my best friend and my co-founder of the band Egypt that I was in the late 80s and 90s, Andy Waldeck. And last year, Dave let us use his studio up here in Charlottesville, the same place where they made their latest record. We got to use. How lucky is that? You know what I mean? No one gets that kind of opportunity. My friend and I have been writing songs since we were 17, and we got together 40 years later, and I took my riffs from 2021 tour every morning on my way to work on the back lounge of the audio bus. I make a little video and I write some guitar riff, a couple chords or a lick or whatever. I write a piece on the way to work in the morning. And Andy and I sat down with those voice notes in a matter of days, put together 6 songs built off those voice notes from the back lounge of the audio bus. We banged lyrics off each other. Andy's a really good bass player and a singer. Andy's a really good engineer and producer. So we worked together. So that project we decided to call The Long Way. And that's pertaining to our long 40-year journey of being 17-year-old kids and still writing songs together in our mid-50s and enjoying it more than ever. The ego was gone. We weren't trying to get a record deal. We weren't fighting 20-year-old kids between each other. We just listened to the riffs and wrote songs accordingly. So it's called The Long Way, and I'm about to, in the next month, hopefully before I get on the road in May, there'll be a website, The Long Way, and there'll be 6 new songs available on that website. I'm just starting out there. I would like to start the chain of commerce just really simply, these 6 songs are available on my website for whatever you would like to pay. I just want to start a little circle of commerce. I don't have the wherewithal right now to fight the algorithms and do the right thing on Instagram to go for thousands of hits on Spotify and shit. Maybe we'll get there, but right now I'm just gonna start that. So look out for The Long Way, as well as myself and Kristen Ray Bowden. And I appreciate you guys giving me the forum to say that.
Of course,
absolutely. Can't wait to hear all that. Man, that sounds really cool.
Cool. I'll send you guys a song. How about that? I'll send you one of the Long Way songs in an email. Maybe you'll get fired up about it, or maybe you'll think it sucks. But either way,
we will love it.
We will love it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, feeling
Thanks
it.
so much.
Love it.
Joe Lawlor